I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Hi, I'm Michelle, and I help parents who want to parent peacefully to foster strong relationships with their children and at times find it really hard. When my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out. Not only did I struggle responding peacefully or playfully or setting loving limits, I got caught in an awful yelling pattern. And here's the thing, I realized all these amazing podcasts and books I was listening to, they all required calm. They all required me to have a regulated nervous system. So I'm going to share with you how I learned to do that and all the ways that we can get stuck as parents and tools to help us get unstuck. So now let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self-compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Today's topic, from rage to reset, the power of pausing. So I created something called the guided pause and regroup, also known as the rage break. And it's for those moments that I needed a help to figure out what to do with this rage. It wasn't enough to just not yell. First of all, how do you not yell again? Secondly, what do I do when I am able to shut my mouth because I'm still filled with rage? What do I do with that? What do I do with these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts that are racing through my head? These are all problems that we as parents are facing when we are trying to respond differently or calmly or peacefully, but that we might bump up against. So I'm going to share with you how what I learned to do and how I do it. And then you can use this same thing yourself by finding it on the website, compassionateheartmindfullife.com, and look for the guided pause and regroup. Okay. So first off, we start with us. As Daniel Siegel says, parenting from the inside out. So I knew when my kids were small, studying attachment theory, that they needed me to be calm. They needed me to have regulated nervous system. But what if I didn't? I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. My window of tolerance was narrow because of all the things I just said, which means people say you have a short fuse, right? That's what having a short fuse means. You easy to flip into fight or flight. So, what am I supposed to do about this? I could intellectually understand what my kids needed, how I should respond, how I had a strong desire to do all of these things, but that wasn't enough. I needed help to change what was happening inside of me. And it's funny, when at the time I was reading a lot of Dr. Laura Markham's work. I love her work, her books, her blogs, all of it. She has such great information. And she suggests not using charts for our kids to help them with behaviors. And I love her suggestion. She says, if you want to stop yelling, give yourself a behavior chart to help you stop yelling. Give yourself a smile that day if you didn't yell, and an X or a frowny face if you did yell. And so I made my chart, because I do love a chart, and I put it on the refrigerator. And I didn't get very many smiley face days, and it was very upsetting and defeating and sucked. It didn't work. I didn't change my behavior. I felt terrible. And I'm pretty sure that was Dr. Laura Markham's point, which I kind of love the way that she made that point, because after doing that, I'm like, yeah, she's right. Behavior charts don't work. That's ridiculous. Certainly didn't help me. So eventually, actually through Dr. Laura Markham's workbook, she talked about hand-in-hand parenting. And I looked them up, found them, and they have all these amazing resources. And one of them is helping you find a parenting coach. So I was desperate, guys, like real freaking desperate. So I was eager to help me, anybody, please. And so I started talking to a parenting coach, and things began to get better because I started offloading all of the stuff that I was carrying, all of my stress, all of my overwhelm, all of the feelings about being a terrible parent, and things started getting better. But I still found myself easily triggered and yelling, which I did not like and wanted to change. So, um, it's kind of like using my therapist brain and therapist knowledge. And I was like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna do this, right? I had this determination. So first I learned to pause. And I can't tell you that I have some, we can, on a different podcast, we'll talk through blocks to pausing because you might download this and you might like agree with it and want to try it, but then you might not do it. And there's probably lots of good reasons why. So at some point, I'll do a podcast about blocks to pausing. Emotional blocks is what I'm talking about. Um, so anyhow, first, the actually pausing. So in the middle of the kitchen, it seems like always in the kitchen, I'm trying to do something. I ask the kids to do something. They ignore me, say later, or just flat out refuse, or say no, or they start fighting, whatever it is. Trigger, right? I feel the rage. Come on. It feels like hot energy. And maybe I start to like, you just better, and I start. And I would generally like initially, right? I would be like in the middle of it. And at some point I would catch myself and I'd be like, I want to yell. And I would close my mouth and I would walk out of the room. And this was the only way I could remove myself, stop yelling, was to remove myself from the stimuli. And here's the thing, my kid's brain was flipped. This is Daniel Siegel has this hand model of the brain. And this is the prefrontal cortex where we have logic and reasoning and empathy and self-compassion or compassion. And when we get triggered into fight or flight, we flip our lid. Now we're working from the amygdala and we don't have all this good stuff that we need that helps us respond peacefully and calmly. So the thing is, my kid's brain was already, their lid was already flipped, i.e., whatever difficult behavior they were having. What they needed was for me to come in and respond with calm. But what would happen is they would, have their lid would be flipped, and then that would cause me to flip my lid. And I couldn't see them rationally or the situation rationally. I couldn't respond calmly. I couldn't think about the fact that this is not them as a person. This is a moment in time. This is something's happening. It was like, narrow thinking. Something I had to do something now. I had to, act now. So I knew that I wanted to respond to my kids with an intact, calm, regulated brain. So if my lid's flipped, I had to take myself out of the room and re-intact my brain. So I learned how to shut my mouth and walk away. But then I ran into new problems. I'd walk away and I'd be flooded with adrenaline. And I'd still, like every fiber in my being, wanted to shout or yell or scream or something, right? The fight adrenaline was still pumping. So I had to figure out something to do then. And the thing that I learned from my parenting coach was to like push against a wall. And I love this because maybe you've heard the expression neurons that wire together, fire together, which Dr. Daniel Hebb, a psychologist, said this. And essentially that meant like stress, kids fighting, that's the stimuli equaled yelling, shutting it down with harshness, right? So that was what was wiring together. Those are the two things that were wiring together. And I needed to have, they are doing XYZ. I want to respond with calm. So I thought, okay, if I remove myself, but I hit a pillow or I'm screaming, like, is that really working? And then I also thought about, it takes 20 minutes for our brain to return to calm. So if we're not adding additional stimuli, so like, what am I supposed to be doing here with all of this? So I thought that the instruction of pushing against a wall was really helpful because it's helping us move through, right? Like Emily Nagoski describes emotions as a tunnel. You have to move through them. You have to let that energy and adrenaline move through, but in a healthy way. That's why it feels good to yell because it wants to come out. I kind of feel in the moment, but then it doesn't. And then it feels really terrible, right? Um, but it wants to come out. So we got to give ourselves a healthy, positive way for it to come out. So pushing against a wall, wringing a towel, doing push ups or jumping jacks or dancing. You can make yourself a yelling playlist. I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to share it with you all when I do. Um, so, you essentially move your body in whatever kind of way until you feel like a little bit worn out, a little bit tired, right? So that's the first one's pause. The second one is M, move your body. The next one is shift your thinking. So I recognized too that when my brain was flipped, remember I said that that takes away our rational thinking, our self-regulation, our empathy. So when our lid is flipped, we're thinking things like, my kid is terrible. They never listen. The only way they'll listen is if I yell, and on and on and on, right? Those thoughts are not helpful. Those thoughts are fueling the fire, and they're not entirely true. And so the next thing is shifting our thinking is um, challenging those thoughts. Is my kid really terrible, or are they having a bad moment? Is my child really spoiled, or are they tired and struggling with listening today? Is my kid really awful, or are they just having a hard time because it's the start of school and whatever it is, right? That challenging our thinking helps us kind of remember, oh, I'm in this spiral of thoughts that's my fight or flight thoughts that's not helping me and not helping me calm down and not entirely true. This shifting our thoughts is super challenging. I'm not saying that this is easy. It's just helpful to understand what's happening in our brain and why it's so freaking hard. Um, so then, after we shift our thoughts, which another thing is if we're kind of like so far gone um, that we might need something like really to just distract ourselves. And mindfully distracting ourselves is helpful. So it might be that you watch something funny, watch funny videos. Maybe I used to text my partner like angry emojis. And it was helpful because one, I was like telling someone that I was angry and bad, like, but also it was funny. It made me laugh. It made me smile, which helped me start to shift out of that anger and fight or flight mode. And finally, in the guided pause and regroup, so we've paused, we have moved our body, we've shifted our thinking. The last one is self-compassion, because oftentimes what happens next, if it hasn't already started, is shame. What's wrong with me? I'm a terrible parent. No, so and so would never yell. So and so would never talk like this to their kids. I'm just like my whomever I don't want to be like. All these kind of shameful thoughts, which I experienced, and I can tell you it was painful. And it was bad because I would be stuck in this shame hole and it would kind of like set off this low mood or depressive episode that would at least last for hours, if not the day or days. And so then I would not be as engaged with my kids. I would be more withdrawn. I would be more, like it just was not, I wasn't in a good place still, right? So the final thing that okay, now I've paused, I've taken myself out of the room, I've kind of managed to move through the adrenaline, but now I'm filled with shame because what's wrong with me that I'm so easily triggered? Um, the antidote to shame is self-compassion. And I follow two self-compassion teachers. One of them is Kristen Neff, and the other is Tara Brach. And Kristen Neff has the self-compassion break. And that actually it's a guided audio on her website. Check it out. And that actually was the inspiration for this because I would use it in these moments because I was like desperate. I would do anything to not feel this way and for this not to happen. It sucks. So anyways, I listened to that, but it didn't help me with the first part, right? Like it didn't help. It's not specific to parents and it's not specific to anger. But it did help me with the shame part. And so she first said the first step is this is a moment of suffering, or you could say this is a moment of anger, this is a moment of shame, this is a moment of whatever. And you're labeling the emotion, which helps you give yourself a little bit of space and distance from it, right? If you think about emotions as when you're in it, you're like being tossed around in the river and just like, kind of like the emotions are happening to you and it feels like overwhelming and you feel out of control. When you name your emotions, it doesn't take them away. It doesn't take the difficult feeling of it away, but it helps you get out of the river and notice what's happening in the river. So it gives you a little bit of space from the emotion. And then the second part of the self-compassion break is um, common humanity, reminding yourself, I'm not alone. All parents struggle with yelling from time to time. All parents struggle with anger. All parents struggle with their kids' difficult behavior, even if they don't struggle in the same way. It still is hard. Parenting is hard, right? So you're intentionally reminding yourself, I am not alone. With 8 billion people on the planet, there is probably someone in the middle of this almost exact same moment as me right now, feeling the same things, going through the same things, and maybe even someone in our neighborhood, right? Like you're not alone. And if you are like, I don't know about that, I'm telling you, I've been in it. I still struggle with this from time to time. It looks a little bit different, but I've been there. So you're not alone. And then finally, self compassion. So that's something like putting your hand on your heart and saying to yourself, can I be gentle with myself in this difficult moment? You might even say, can I be gentle with myself and my kiddo in this difficult moment? Can I give myself grace in this difficult moment? Can I be patient with myself and my kiddo in this difficult moment? Something like that, whatever phrase kind of resonates with you. So that's the guided pause and regroup, also known as the age break. First, pause. Second, move your body. Third, shift your thoughts. Fourth, self compassion. And of course, when you're triggered, you're not going to be able to remember this stuff. That is why I recorded myself in a much more concise, short way. It's 7 minutes. It was supposed to be five, so maybe I'll re-record it and see if I can get it down to five. But that is, you can't think. That's the point. So you put headphones in and you listen to me walk you through these steps. And I would love to hear how it goes. I would love to hear, um, yeah, like if you use it, how it goes, when you use it, how you use it. And something that I use that strategy this very week. My kiddo was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning. It was like time was ticking away. I have been extra stressed about work stuff. And so my stress level was higher. Time was narrow. My kiddo's not getting out of bed. Like this is a perfect storm kind of situation. And I realized that I was getting short and edgy and, just like, ugh. And I took myself away and I took myself into my room and I sat on the floor and I did the rain practice actually, because that's the one I usually use. I recognized, okay, these are my emotions. I'm feeling angry. Can I allow these stupid feelings to be here? Welcome to the party. Ugh. This is how it really goes. I interconnected. Okay, ugh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only parents going through this. And you know what started to happen? I started to cry. And here's the thing, you might think a lot of people say to me, I hate crying. I don't like crying. It feels weak. So you might not like that if it happens. But I want you to know, one, it's normal, and two, it's really, really good. Crying is healing. There is some wound inside that is getting triggered in that moment. Maybe it's you know, I don't know what kind of wound it could be. It could be from growing up, it could be more recent, but there is some kind of wound that's getting triggered for you. If you're crying, you're helping yourself heal from that wound and you're not getting hooked and reactive. You are breaking a pattern. Crying is good, like it's success. You can imagine me in your mind cheering for you, putting my arm around you if you're crying and you don't like it. I hear you. I can understand that feeling of not liking crying and it feeling weak and that not feeling safe and a lot of things that people describe. But I want you to know that if that happens, that is a good thing. That is this working well for you. So anyhow, after I like had a moment, I was able to come back and it wasn't like an easy morning. I was still kind of like agitated and it was still hard, but it kept me from yelling and doubling down on harshness and it like spiraling out of control and us getting caught in a negative pattern that I didn't want to happen, right? So was it easy? And I was like, oh, good. No, that's not what happened. It was still rough. It was still hard, but it was better than the alternative. So I would love again for you to hear how this goes. I would love for you to share with me how this goes. And this week's play idea is to find the song Angry Alex. It's a Minecraft song and sing Angry Alex with your kids. I, for whatever reason, love this song because she's like happy. And then the music changes and she's like angry. And I don't know, it's just hilarious to me. And so I sing it with the song and my kids sing it with me. And then we also recorded ourselves singing it and like who could be angry Alex better. Um, it was fun and hilarious. And I would love to hear what you think of Angry Alex. And if you get to do it with your kids, and maybe you could um, send me a message and let me know how it goes. Thank you so much for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. And hey, that whole thing I've just been talking about for the last 20 minutes, the guided pause and regroup, this is my free gift for you. Check it out. Come to the compassionateheartmindfullife.com. I'll also put it in the show notes link, but hopefully that's easy to find. But if not, compassionateheartmindfullife.com and find on the website the guided audio pause and regroup, download it, and you'll get your audio, a video of me, which is the same thing as the audio, but like you can actually see me, and then a PDF, which is like something you can print off and put in your bathroom or in your closet or in your car or wherever it is that you need it, to remind yourself of these steps. And yeah, let me know how it goes. A reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy and should not be a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thank you so much for listening. Be well.